Good Tuesday morning. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Megan McPherson. Breaking news this morning, the entire Boundary Water Canoe area is now closed as more than a dozen wildfires burned in northern Minnesota. The three largest fires have burned through almost 9,000 acres, including the Thumb Fire, which started from a lightning strike. At least 17 people have been airlifted out of the area. This is the first time in 5 years and only the third time ever the Boundary Waters has closed to the public, and it's happening during peak tourism season.
The problem is, how long is it going to last? So you're already looking at, so can I have zero business for the next 5 days and be fine? Yeah, I think that'd be fine. But can you go 2 weeks without business and be fine? Well, that's getting to be a stretch.
Any BWCA permits canceled because of the closure are being automatically refunded. And even when the full closure is lifted, the Forest Service says lingering flames will likely cause partial closures for the rest of the season. Here in the metro, the heat is sticking around with feels like temperatures in the triple digits. And while some lakes are closed, there's plenty of other ways to stay cool and safe. Audrey Russo is at Lake McCarran's in Roseville.
When popular beaches like Lake McCarran's behind me close down due to E. coli concerns, well, cities got to get creative to figure out how to get water to the people. Now in St. Paul, they're doing just that. Their Parks Department is teaming up with the Fire Department to offer splashdowns in different neighborhoods. While they didn't specify exactly what that means, if it's anything like what we saw in Monticello over the weekend, people are in for a treat.
Go!
Yeah, fun for all ages. Now take a look at this. This is the schedule of what St. Paul is offering over the next 3 days. The first stop is at 2 this afternoon in Arlington Hills. And we have to really remember what we're up against here. The National Weather Service put out this heat risk map, and you can see the purple sections are the most severe, with no overnight relief and long duration. Honestly, who would have thought that Oklahoma would be the place where folks could find some relief and cooler temperatures in these trying times? Now, of course, you can also head inside to some different cooling centers. Both Hennepin and Ramsey County have links on their websites to where you can find the closest cooling center to you. And it's actually crazy because we're telling people to head inside, but it's important to know that over the next 8 days, the Target USA Cup is actually being held in Blaine. More than 1,000 soccer teams are going to compete for glory. Honestly, they picked a really difficult 8 days to do so. So let's wish them the best of luck in staying hydrated in these temperatures. Back to you.
The mayor of Wabasha confirms 2 of the 3 people killed in a pontoon crash in Lake Pepin were city firefighters. The crash happened late Saturday night, after the Coast Guard says the pontoon collided with a commercial barge. The 3 bodies were recovered Sunday afternoon. The fire department set up a truck yesterday holding an American flag in their honor. The mayor says the victims were well loved and connected to every aspect of the community.
You'd have to use a paragraph of terms to describe how connected they were to our community and our children's communities. These are people in the height of their life. They're responsible for many others that depend on them, and we got to hold them up.
The community gathered last night to host a prayer vigil. The Wabasha County Sheriff's Office has not released the names of the victims at this time. Nearly 6 months after the shootings of Renee Good, Alex Preddy, and Julio Sosa Solis, state prosecutors finally have the evidence they've been waiting for. Araya Katene explains.
Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty announced the state now has all of the evidence the federal government was withholding from her office and the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, or the BCA. And she says that includes hard drives containing hours and hours of videos, body cam footage, and statements, as well as physical evidence, including the car Renee Good was driving when an ICE agent shot through the window, killing her back in January. And this change comes months after the state sued the Justice Department for refusing to share evidence. Moriarty says getting every piece of evidence is critical as prosecutors determine whether charges against the federal agents are warranted.
This morning, roads are back open around a Rosemont church after a devastating fire. Take a look at this video. This is what's left of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church near Rosemont Elementary. You can see extensive damage there to the roof. The fire department tells us they had the fire out by late morning yesterday, but the scene was under surveillance for hours while the fire marshal investigated. Officials say they believe the building was empty when they arrived. They still don't know how it started. We are just hours away from the swearing in of Lindsey Graham's sister to replace the late senator. The South Carolina governor announced yesterday Darlene Graham Nordine will take over her brother's seat to finish out his term. Before Darlene was picked, President Trump posted on Truth Social saying he recommended her to the governor. Since Senator Graham was up for re-election this November, a primary election will be held to fill his role. In honor of Graham, Governor Tim Walz ordered flags to fly at half staff until sunset on Saturday. New this morning, oil prices now at a one-month high, rising to just over $84 around the world and nearly $80 a barrel, according to the U.S. Futures Board. The price hike comes as the U.S. launches new strikes against Iran, causing traffic in the Strait of Hormuz to slow. About 20% of the world's oil moves through the strait, meaning any movement or lack thereof in it affects oil prices globally. For the second time in less than a week, federal agents shot and killed a man during an immigration enforcement operation, this time in Maine. An ICE spokesperson says an ICE officer fired his gun because he feared for public safety when the person tried to drive off. The community is angry and lawmakers want answers. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. ICE tactics are once again back in the spotlight with immigration arrests up nationwide and now 2 communities demanding answers after fatal shootings. A community vigil in Maine overnight, where there's a growing outcry over an ICE officer fatally shooting a man. This video shows a white car driving in a circle with an ICE officer trying to grab the door handle. It's not clear if this was before or after the shots were fired. Another video shows what appears to be federal agents pulling a limp body from a car and putting the man's hands behind his back. In a statement, an ICE spokesperson said the vehicle attempted to flee and that, fearing for public safety, an officer fired his weapon, saying ICE was there conducting targeted surveillance on the last known address of someone with a final order of removal when a person who was not in the country legally left the house in the car. But Maine Independent Senator Angus King says the Homeland Security Secretary told him the intended target is not who was killed.
The person they were after was not the guy they ended up shooting. And then, as you say, the statement does not allege that the officer felt that he was in danger.
2 immigrant rights organizations tell NBC News the man killed was a 26-year-old from Colombia who was authorized to work in the U.S. and had been issued a Social Security number. Authorities have not publicly identified him. The ICE officer was not wearing a body camera, also the case in another recent fatal ICE shooting in Houston, where Homeland Security says the man weaponized a vehicle against officers, though some Texas officials question that, adding that man had lived in the U.S. for 35 years and was also not ICE's target. The DHS Inspector General's office is now investigating the Maine shooting, according to a person familiar with the investigation. It comes as ICE is ramping up its arrests nationwide. A source familiar told NBC News the agency arrested more than 1,300 people this past Saturday and 1,100 on Sunday, up from 600 per weekend day on average last month. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Today, Target Field union workers are taking their fight for a new contract to Minneapolis City Hall. The union is hoping for the city council's support after they say contract negotiations with their employer have failed. They've been working without an agreement since January, asking for higher wages, health insurance, and job protections. The union says future striking and picketing is possible. Today marks 2 years until the 2028 Summer Olympic Games in Los Angeles. These will be the first summer games in the United States since 1996 in Atlanta. And California is no stranger to hosting. The Los Angeles Coliseum, one of the city's most historic buildings, will become the first venue to host 3 Olympic Games. It's previously hosted the 1932 and 1984 Games.
This is really an important moment for the United States and for LA and all of Angelenos in California to really shine.
They will not be building any new venues for the 2028 Games. Instead, they will reuse venues in 25 zones all over California and the U.S. Soccer matches for the Olympics will be hosted in New York, Columbus, Nashville, St. Louis, and California. Softball and kayak events will be in Oklahoma City. LA 28 says it needs 60,000 volunteers for the games. Registration opens for that today. Officials say they've already had 300,000 people show interest. Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.